Hello everybody and welcome to another video of DIY investing. For today's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how the end of the year and the beginning of the new year is the most bullish time to buy crypto. If you look at all of our prior bear markets, the entire 10 years of Bitcoin's price history, you're going to find that the new year has been the very best time to buy each and every bear market before the coming cycle. People that are accumulating right now are going to set themselves up for financial opportunity beyond their wildest dreams, and all you have to do is have the patience to hold through. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into it today. Alrighty guys, so here we are looking at Bitcoin on the daily time frames. This is going to be a very important video for the average person, especially the person that's only inside of their very first bear market. If you got in at the cycle top, or you were just a late buyer in any point throughout this bear market, this is going to be a very informative video that's going to break things down in a really easy to understand way. Now guys, you know that I've been talking about 4-year cycles for a long time. We're not going to get too much into that. What we're going to be talking about is how if you would have just simply understood that buying at the beginning of the new year, you would have been able to make a lot more money than the average person just simply following that one strategy. Now guys, as a rule of thumb with early cycles and with cycles as a whole, it's not always going to be this way, but one of the things that we do see, we follow the cycles inside of a calendar year. You have spring, you have summer, you have fall, and then you have winter. And that's kind of the way that the average year works out. And through that, we see cycles, right? And that's why I always talk to you guys about these market cycles, why I talk to you guys about time frames, is because if you understand the way that the cycles work throughout a calendar year or throughout multiple years, you're going to be able to set yourselves up in a big way. Now guys, as a rule of thumb, one thing that we have seen is bottoms of cycles generally will happen at the end of the year. Now, we're going to come right over here and analyze January 1st of the new year, and that's going to be right here. Now guys, as you guys can see, this was almost the exact bear market bottom, and in fact we ended up going a little bit higher, and it wasn't the exact bottom, it was about the midpoint from the high of the move to the low of the cycle bottom. But if we come over here at the January 1st and draw a line, we can see that the entire accumulation of Bitcoin's trend happened right here at the New Year open. And so it's a very important level that we watch for. It's an important time frame because oftentimes, well, not often, every single Bitcoin bear market bottoms around the end of the year. And so we can see that took place here. Had you have bought at the very beginning of the end of the year or the new year, you would have actually been able to make way more money than the average person. And so we can see that that was pretty much the cycle low of our very first bear market. And then that went into our next major bull run. Really wish I would have got in back in those days, but I just was way too young at the time. It wasn't even legal to own Bitcoin at that point. Now, if we come over here to our next bear market, we can see that we get our cycle top. And then if we come over here and draw a point right at the beginning of the new year, January 1st, we can see that that is right here. Now, you wouldn't have nailed the exact cycle low. We ended up getting one final capitulation right after that new year. But nonetheless, you would have been way more accurate than the average person inside of the market. And so what I would tell you guys is if you're looking to buy a bear market, buy at the new year or at least the end of the year after you've seen about a 70 to an 80% correction from the highs. That's the way you're going to know if it's a bear market. If the market is just rallying up and it's in some part of the 3-year bull cycle and a 4-year cycle, then you're going to obviously know that we're not in a bear market, we're in a bull market, so there's no real correlation around that end of the year. So there's not a real big reason to be focused so much at the end of the year, although it does still work in bull trends. We can see that inside of this 2013 cycle, if we draw a point at the end of the year, we can actually see that we ended up seeing a cycle top, right? And so it can be a pivot point nonetheless. It could be a pivot point of a cycle top, or it can be a pivot point of a cycle bottom. But the big thing we're focused on here is analyzing the cycle lows and understanding how we could have got in, understanding this one pattern, and how it would have been a really good strategy for us to be more profitable than the average person inside of the market. Even though we saw one more final capitulation here, you would have still captured the majority of this bear market correction, and it would have corrected about 74% before we ended up seeing that final low. And so it wouldn't have been the exact bear market bottom, but I can guarantee you guys, had you have bought Bitcoin at $315 back in 2015 or 2016, you would have been very happy throughout that time. And so we can see here that after the end of the year, we begin the next bull market. And this is why I say that you would have been very happy to know this one pattern, because you would have got in right before the bottom at the very beginning of the new bull cycle, right? And so same thing happens all the way throughout here. If we come over here, we draw a point at the new year, we can see that this was almost the exact cycle low in the 2019 to 2018 bear market as well. We can see that the exact low was about $3,100 to $3,200. That happened about midway in December. But nonetheless, we got one higher high, and then that was pretty much the new year, right? And so even though we kind of came back down to retest our range lows, had you have gotten in right here at the new year, you would have been way better off than the entire majority of the people trading you. It would have been the average bottom point of this entire cycle. And so by us understanding these things, it gives us a much greater idea of what's going to happen inside of the bigger picture. It gives us a better idea on how to be more profitable. And it also gives us an exact advantage over our competition that we're trading against inside of the market. Now keep in mind, guys, that once again, if you're going to follow this, what we're looking for as a criteria is about an 80 to a 70% drop from the all-time highs, right? So 70% would have taken us to pretty much our range low here in our descending triangle. And then if you would have waited until the new year, you would have been able to accumulate at about an 80% decline from those cycle tops. Not the exact bottom, but you were close enough at this point that I can guarantee anybody that was following this would have made a lot of money in the process, right? This was back at a time when I didn't understand 4-year cycles, and it was actually around this time that I actually began to learn about them, and that was when the aha moment came. I had the epiphany of how these cycles actually play out, and if you understood buying at the end of the year to the beginning of the new year, you would have been so much better off in your trading plan than anybody else inside of the markets. Now, in the exact same ways, if you bought the new year, we begin the next cycle impulse, and then we get 3 years of a bull trend, right? Now, this is where we get into our current cycle, and because our cycle top was a little bit more lackluster than prior cycles, many people have kind of just quit crypto entirely. They've given up. They've left the market. They're saying to themselves, oh, no, everything's dead. This time's different. Rising interest rates, record inflation. Bitcoin can't go up in that type of environment. And, you know, if that's your belief, then, you know, all power to you. Have fun doing whatever you're going to do in your next adventure. But for us, I'm still looking for these exact same patterns once again. Until they're just going to stop and they're not going to follow through, I'm going to keep actually trading these, because as of right now, we have 10 years of price history that has proven to us this is one of the most accurate forms of analysis to get in and out of the cycles. But most importantly, what we're analyzing is how to get into the bottom of the bear market. Now, guys, if we come over here once again and we draw a point right at the beginning of the new year, look at where we're at. Every single one of the criteria that I talked about in the prior parts of this video, what we're looking for is at least a 70 to an 80% drop from the all-time highs, and we have to be inside of a bear market. What is a bear market? Well, lower lows and lower highs, right? We know that we topped here at 69,000. We topped pretty close to the end of the year, and from that point, we've literally just had lower lows and lower highs throughout our entire consolidation, right? And so we know that we're in a bear market, and we can prove that we're in a bear market because of the way that the trend is looking. So first things first, we know that we're in a bear market. Now, what's our next criteria? Well, at least a 70 to an 80% drop from those all-time highs. If we come back down here, we can see that we're right in between both of those at 75%. So as of right now, every single thing that we need to see for a bear market bottom, or at least our pivot point for buying at the bear market bottom, everything that we need to see has already happened. And that's why I tell you guys that we're better off accumulating right now, even if we see one more final drop. If we see one final capitulation, it would end up behaving a little bit more like this cycle, where we get the end of the year and the beginning of the new year, and then we just see one final capitulation. If that's the case, it needs to happen basically now. It will happen inside of this week, in my opinion. If we start going past, you know, January the 10th, the 15th, then at that point, I'm really not going to be expecting that Bitcoin's going to be making a lower low. I would firmly believe that this is ultimately going to hold. And one of the big things that we need to pay attention for, guys, is even though we did break support right here, and we retested it right here as resistance, keep in mind that the spill that we saw after the FTX collapse, that was kind of a black swan event. And those are the type of things that ultimately mark bear market bottoms. And so when we look at this, it's important that we factor in a number of different forms of analysis. One of the big things is the emotional psychology of a market cycle. What you're generally going to see at the bottom of a cycle is a major capitulation event. what I find is so interesting, if we take the time not only to analyze the New Year bottom, but if we also take time to analyze the 4-year cycles, I love to do this because it lines up so perfectly with all of our prior cycles, right? Now guys, once again, what we've looked for in all of our prior cycles has been around the end of the year. We know that that's a major pivot point inside of our cycles. And if we come over here, we take it a step further and we analyze the time in between the bear market bottom to the bear market bottom, we can see that from 2015 all the way to our bear market bottom over here in 2018, this one was 1,428 days. I'm going to beat the dead horse because I swear people just seem to ignore the fact that this is the best form of analysis that we can follow. I still see people doubting the 4-year cycles, and I don't understand why. We have 10 years of price history to prove the validity of this. I'm not saying that the bull market can't be different because I firmly believe it can. What we're looking at is the bear market bottoms though, and thus far, our bear market has been nothing different, nothing new than any of our prior cycles. This was 1,428 days. How many days are in 4 years? 1,450. So this was almost exactly 4 years from the cycle low to the cycle low. Now, once again, guys, if we take that exact same rule, we draw it from the bear market bottom of 2018 all the way over to the bottom of the FTX collapse. Oh my goodness, how many days is that? 1,428 days from our bear market low to the capitulation that we saw after the FTX collapsed. Now guys, once again, what we saw of the FTX collapse was a black swan event. What we saw was the third biggest exchange going bankrupt after literally creating a Ponzi scheme. A literal Ponzi scheme they did. And so, if we haven't broken below that, it's hard to say what is ultimately going to drag us lower. I did make a video and talked about how Grayscale going bankrupt could easily be that final capitulation, and that's still something we need to talk about, which is why I say that on the 8th of this month, in January, I don't know what's going to happen, but Cameron Winklevoss actually said that he's waiting for a response by the 8th to ultimately give to his customers. So apparently there's something very major that's going to happen around the 8th of this month that has to do with Genesis, with Grayscale, and the insolvency issues around Gemini Earn program, right? And so if there is going to be one final capitulation, it will be centered around that. And so that's why I say that, after the 8th, around the 10th to the 15th, if we haven't made a lower low in Bitcoin, I truly believe that the bottom will be in. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for confirmation. I mean, obviously, if Bitcoin starts breaking out and rally upwards of 19 and 20K, that would also prove to me that the bear market low is in. But the big thing that we're looking at here is our time frames, right? We know that the end of the year is a great point for buying. And if we come in here and we draw the new year, we're going to draw that point. We're going to make it, let's make it the same size, but let's make this one red. The red dashed lines are the new year, and the black one is not the new year. So these are all going to be basically the new years, right? So if we're looking right here, we know that there's always a little bit of a difference between our cycle low and the new year and the beginning of the new year, right? But it's always so consistent with each other that I don't think it matters, right? In the first cycle over here for 2015, we actually saw one more lower low. In the cycle in 2018, we bottomed before we ended up getting to the new year. In our current cycle today, we thus far have seen the same thing as 2018, where we made our cycle low, and then it took about a month or a couple weeks before we hit the new year. And so as it stands right now, I have nothing but confidence to being able to accumulate right now. Like I've stated 100 times, I don't care if we get one more low. If we get one more low, I've got some extra dry powder on the sidelines ready to buy that dip. I will buy it with all of the dry powder that I have left at this point. Been accumulating the entire bear market, but I really wasn't accumulating much until this drop right here. And throughout this entire consolidation that we were at up until the FTX collapsed. Now, FTX collapsed, and then after, we've seen a lot of markets holding support. We've seen a lot of things looking like they're actually creating bottom formations. And so with us being 4 years from our last cycle low, with us having an obvious trend that's developed between the 4-year cycle bottoms and the new years, and us being right at the beginning of this new year, I don't think you can really go wrong by accumulating right now. We're down 75% from the highs. If we go lower, so be it. If we don't, I can almost guarantee anybody accumulating right now that is willing to hold for the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to be happy with the fact that you are willing to buy right now. There's all the fun. Everybody's talking about sub $500 Ethereum. Everybody's talking about the rising interest rates, the record inflation, how Bitcoin has never been in that type of environment. And while, yes, that is correct, Bitcoin has never been in that type of environment, Bitcoin is also in a very obvious trend that even though we are inside of a bear market, these bear markets can pivot, Bitcoin can pivot, Bitcoin going up, even with all of the record inflation and the interest rates, people are just going to attach a new narrative to Bitcoin. After that, if Bitcoin bottoms here, we make a new high like we saw in maybe our last cycle, at the very least rally up to 30K and flip this level. If we do something like that and we start the next uptrend over, the course of the next 3 years, you're going to hear people talking about how Bitcoin is immune to record inflation, how Bitcoin is immune to all of the rising interest rates. You're going to hear the narrative flip, and it only has to do with the fact that we're in a bear market that people are saying this. I've heard this time is different so many times, but it's coming after an 80% or 70 to 80% correction, rather than these people should have been calling for this time to be different at the cycle top. It's the same emotions every single cycle, and so if nothing has changed in our 4-year cycles and everything is literally as consistent as it always has been, I have nothing but extreme confidence willing to buy right now, and that's ultimately what I think that you guys should at least consider at the very least. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys found value in this and you guys want to join my Discord server, download my free ebook, follow all the trades that I take over this next cycle. I've been posting new signals. There's going to be some bangers that are going to come out of this bottom. Bitcoin's going to rip off the lows. It's going to catch people off guard, just like it does every single bear market. But this is the first bear market that I've genuinely been prepared. I'm accumulating. I've got really good picks that I'm excited about heading into this next cycle. And at 6 years, going into my 7th year of crypto experience, I'm so excited to really just take all of the lessons learned from my entire 7-year history and just put it into this next cycle. There's going to be some big winners. We've got some great projects that we're talking about right now in the group. And so if you guys want to join, it's a lifetime access for anybody that wants to. Links are in the description for anybody that wants to sign up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.